Any new list? Any good open houses? Anybody meet any prospects that they want to talk about?
I have a new buyer.
Cool. Where did that one come from?
That one came from, actually, I held my daughter's house open when she was looking to lease it. And a lead came in. They were interested in renting. And they ended up not renting my daughter's house. But I stayed in contact with the gentleman. He's a professor at University of West Georgia.
Okay.
And he sent me a referral on Friday. And we had our little buyer consultation Friday evening, and he sent me a signed buyer brokerage agreement last night.
Nice. Congratulations, Donna. Congratulations. That is awesome.
Thank you.
I tell you, it kind of reminds me of when I was, many of you guys know that a lot of my business on the front end of my career came from through rentals, right? And I had, just very briefly, I had no problem getting the appointments back in 2007, 2008. The issue was whether the sellers were willing to sell for what the home was worth, right? I would say, hey, looks like all the data says this home should sell for about 240. And they're like, well, problem is I owe 325, right? And then that led to a whole nother conversation, which generally ended up in, I'm going to put this home on the market for lease. And then I got, of course, clobbered with rental leads. And, a bunch of those people I was able to place, but a bunch of those people I was not able to place for whatever reason it was. And I cared about those people just as much as I cared about the ones who I got paid to help, because I followed back up with them and I knew when they moved in, how long of a lease they signed. I was able to ask them what their new address was. I said something to the effect of, I'd love to get some new business cards into your hands. So if you have some questions in the future, you could let me know. So I'd get their new address. I'd mail them some business cards. I had a huge spreadsheet, like 400 or 500 people literally that had the name and the date that their lease expired. And I don't know, maybe 15% of them I got paid to help, but the other 85%, I knew everything about them. And so like I could go and look up, hey, these are the 15 people whose leases expire in June of 2011. 4 or 5 months before that, I'm going to introduce them all to a lender, right? And some of them would work, some of that would work and some of it wouldn't work. But the bottom line is I always had something. I was always putting a lot of things out there and had a lot of relationships. So great job. Sometimes it's just as valuable to get paid to help the person as it does to just have a great introduction to the person.
Right. And then
Great
just
job.
staying in contact and following up like you did.
That's the key to it all. That's the key to it all. I don't think I've ever met anybody for the first time, got all the paperwork signed and went under contract in one day. I don't think that ever happened. It always required some follow-up, and oftentimes a lot of follow-up. Right. And sometimes they'd say like, Bill, I don't know how you do it, but you've called me every 6 months for the last 12 years, and that's why you're getting my business. I got a system for it. Isn't that what you want out of your realtor?
Yep.
Cool.
And again, this was my daughter's home that she was leasing for only 6 months. And I've actually had another sale out of that. The people who leased her home, I ended up helping them buy a home. So it was just, something I was helping her do, just to do an open house for her. And it's resulted in a couple of clients. And maybe even more, because I have other contacts from that.
Oh, for sure.
One
more,
open house.
those people will sell and buy again. If you can help them amass some wealth, then they might make some real estate investment choices. As long as you continue to love on them and surprise and delight them and make them feel heard and answer their questions quickly, then they will send you referrals forever. Remember,
Right.
A couple of months ago, we did a session on the lifetime value of a client. And literally a client could be worth over $1 million in commissions by the time it's all said and done with. Right? Great job. Great job. All right, let's do one or two more. And then Donna, I'm going to give you the floor to talk a little bit about door knocking today. Anyone else have any cool successes they want to share this weekend?
Yeah, well, I picked up this is Anthony. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I picked up a referral from old coworker I used to work with in New York City. I used to do financial planning, so I did something for her in the past. So she asked me a couple of questions, and then she found out I was a realtor. She was like, man, you need to speak to my brother. He's in the process of looking for a house, and I don't think he's working with anybody. I just can't pinpoint exactly where he is in Georgia. But long story short, we just I sent him a text, said, hey, Brenda, I promised Brenda I'd reach out to you. And we set up for a 5 o'clock phone conversation today. So hopefully that leads to a BBA as well. And I'm potentially going to be putting my daughter under contract on my house because I'm going to sell my house to her. So I may have a few questions for yourself, for you, Bill, and Candace later on off this, with just regarding some paperwork and things of that nature, because Keller Mortgage has come in with a really good opportunity for me.
Okay, and so they're probably going to investigate it, just so everyone can hear this. They want to make sure that it's a legitimate sale, right? Like that you're not selling it for like $100 or something.
Right.
No. So I assume you guys, the number is a reasonable number that a third party could look at and say, hey, this looks clean to me.
Yes, sir.
All right, beautiful. All right, she should hire a realtor because you're going to take advantage of her if she's unrepresented, aren't you?
What's that?
Nothing.
Yeah, okay. It went like this. I had to catch it. I had to bring it back.
Hey,
I'm kind of curious about that too, Bill, because I have someone that I met who wants to buy her daughter's home. She wants to buy from her daughter, and then her daughter's upgrading.
Okay.
And I was just wondering, what that looks like from a realtor's perspective, because I'm sure the daughter doesn't want to have to pay commission, right? I mean, I'm not sure how that would work.
Well, I mean, the first thing in my mind is I don't know why. Maybe I'm intentionally being a little ignorant here, but I don't care who the buyer is and who the seller is. I don't know why they're always after our commissions. Like, we're still doing our job, right? In fact, we're probably going to do 10 times the work because the person's going to have even more questions. So like, I'm confused as to why everyone's always trying to grab at our money. Right. I know it's a little more sensitive when it's a family member, but like the immediate like kind of idea should not be like, oh, I guess we're going to waive some commissions here. Right. If you're going to sell the home, yeah. So like, Anthony, you're going to sell your home to your daughter. Is that right?
Correct.
Right. So there's probably not going to be any commissions paid there because you're going to represent yourself as a seller. So there won't be a check written there per se, and you'll represent, you would be willing to pay the buyer's agent. And depending on how, I think I answered this on the chat yesterday, like if you were to sign a agency agreement with you, then yes, that would be considered dual agency. You'd need to not only disclose that, but you'd have to get permission to do that. If she were to elect to be a customer, right, then and not have outside representation, then you would not have to pay any commissions. Right. Okay. But in the scenario Donna is talking about is slightly different. So Donna is saying that somebody wants to buy, or she wants to buy her daughter's home. Is that right?
Yeah, she's living with her daughter. Daughter wants to upgrade.
So that's actually it could be handled exactly the same, which is the daughter would typically have to pay a commission to both her agent and to the buyer's agent. Now, if that person ends up being the same person, then that's dual agency, and that would be allowed. It just needs to be disclosed. But if somebody is going to be a buyer and they have outside representation, just because they happen to be buying a family member's home doesn't mean that they should like not be paid.
I guess my question is there a way for them to do that without me, where they do save commission?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But that's the wrong question. Is there a way to do it? Yes. Is that in their best interest? Perhaps not. Right. And so if they come to you and say, hey, what are you willing, can you help us here? The question basically should be, hey, here are all 285 things that we do in a real estate transaction. And this is how much I'm normally paid to do it. So what of these tasks are you expecting me to do? And then I'll tell you how much is all that's going to cost. Right. So I'll give you an example. This situation kind of pissed me off a little bit, but I was working with a potential seller. This is like 8 or 9 years ago. Potential seller, we were going to sell around 400, and a potential buyer, and they were going to buy around 400. And they were actually, I was friends with both of them, and they were friends. So we were independently looking, right? So I'm like $12,000 here, $12,000 here. Then they ended up connecting and saying, hey, why don't I just buy your home? Then they call me and say, hey, can you do some paperwork for us? Right. So instead of making 24 grand, they basically didn't want to, I wasn't going to get paid at all. Right. And I agreed, although I've only done this twice and it burned me both times. I agreed to do the paperwork for 1%. Right. I didn't have to take any pictures. I didn't have to put anything in the MLS. A lot of the work was already done. The guy was already working with a lender I was comfortable with. Everything was nice and clean. I did the paperwork for 1%. And then they got a little petty at the end and had to navigate that. But in your situation, Donna, you basically have to determine what role do they actually want you to play? Like, are they looking for your advice on what amount to sell it for? If that's the case, that's a whole different level of service. That's a client relationship, not a customer relationship. And client relationships oftentimes cost more, right? So I guess the main question is, what do they want you to do? Have you already figured out all the terms? You just want me to fill in the blanks here? Or are you looking for, strategic advice? The other question is, most likely they are leaving money on the table if they were to sell it behind closed doors. Right? So Anthony, I suspect you're aware of this, but if your daughter buys the home from you in private, you probably get less for the home than you would if you were to go on the open market.
I'm clear, but the figure that we came up with was basically with the comparables in the market. That's
right.
it.
But as we've seen, I'm not suggesting, I'm just throwing it out there.
Right.
As we've seen, or have there been buyers who are willing to knowingly pay beyond the comps in our market lately?
No, not lately. I mean, they've been kind of.
Well, they're not selling it for 95% of asking price, are they?
No.
Okay, so I think it's fair to say that if you put the home on the market at around where the comps would be, there's a good likelihood that somebody will pay you more than what the comps say it's worth.
Right.
Again, I'm not telling you not to be friendly to your daughter. I'm just saying you as a seller ought to understand that, right? If you tell one person about an opportunity, the terms aren't going to be as good as if you go tell 8 billion people about the opportunity.
Correct.
Cool. And by the way, if I was advising you, Anthony, I would make sure that was in writing, right? And say, hey, you have chosen to market or to sell the home without listing it against my professional advice, right? I'm not saying you can't do that, but I don't want anyone ever to come to me and say, hey, you let this thing go. Like, this guy could have sold it for 450 and you sold it for 400. Nope. See this email? We had a discussion on that. See what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
All right, beautiful. Okay, well, I'm glad we got some of that stuff taken care of. Donna, what I was hoping for you and Drew to do today was to kind of, if you could share with us your kind of broad system for door knocking. And I would like for you to talk a little bit about the following things. Preparations, right? Meaning, where do you knock? How do you find where to knock? Is there some strategy involved in that? When do you knock? Like, what's the actual day of knocking look like? Is there a specific time you've identified as a good time, or times that you've identified as not good times that you no longer knock? Is there a certain day you've had more success? Any of that kind of thing. And then what does that dialogue sound like? What's your opening? What objections do you tend to have? Do you tend to get, or what kind of comments do you tend to get? Are you offering them anything? Do you have a handout of any kind? Are you ready to share your mobile app or, electronic business card, or like what do you bring? Like, how are you prepared? And then please talk a little bit about the follow-up involved. And if you use any other type of kind of touch campaign to those same people with essentially the same message, just a different medium. And I want you to focus primarily today on the dialogues. So what does the script sound like? What do you generally hear in response? How do you react to that? Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Beautiful.
So,
All right, the floor is yours.
okay, great. So, not a big fan of like cold calling, and decided that open houses for me was something that I was really comfortable with. I like talking to people face to face, and open houses were just, a natural for me. And I think Drew has, I'll let him speak for himself, but I think he's found the same thing. We started off cold calling, and that was just not a good fit for us. So naturally, when we want to do an open house, we reach out to an agent to schedule. Early in the week, we do that. We schedule our open house and we prepare for the open house. And then we reach out to the neighborhood to invite them to come. So let me just first say that door knocking does work for us. It works for us. We've been able to get several leads through door knocking. And we do door knocking for different reasons. We do it for open houses. We do it to actually hand deliver golden letters. I know a lot of people are mailing their golden letters. We actually walk neighborhoods and door knock. And if someone's not there, then we leave a golden letter. We've door knocked to, I have to do drives, charity drives for both Red Day and around the holidays. And I've even found potential recruits through door knocking. So door knocking has been really successful. I also do it for just listed, going under contract, the home is sold, again, to find off-market homes for our buyers. So there's a number of things you can use door knocking for. And again, it's been pretty successful.
Okay, so let's go. I want to address a couple of parts of what you said. So the first is you have used it for charity drives. Can you tell us what that
Yes.
conversation sounds like?
Yeah, so I started with Red Day because the office was collecting canned goods and clothing for North Fulton Community Charities.
Right.
I used the flyer that the office prepared, and I kind of tweaked it and put my own contact information. And I think the last time I did it, I put my picture too, but I just adjusted it for me to personalize it for me. And I walked through the neighborhoods near my home and knocked on the doors, introduced myself, told them, basically, hi, I'm Donna. I'm your neighbor. I live over just off Grimes Bridge. And I'm also a real estate agent with the Roswell Keller Williams office. So just introducing myself as a neighbor, it kind of, it was more of a less salesy and more, I don't know, sort of a warm, welcoming type introduction. So they were really open.
The takeaway here is it is not, you cannot knock doors outside of your neighborhood. It's a nice touch if you were close to your neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fact because we door knock everywhere. But for the charity drive, I did it kind of close to home because it was convenient for me. And I wanted a way to get in to get to know my neighbors and have them get to know me. And since I do it a couple of times a year, now they're familiar with me. They know who I am, and I know who the neighbors are who are really open to it. And I've actually kept in contact with them throughout the year. So yeah, I just knock on the door, let them know what I'm doing, that Keller Williams has an annual day of service and I'm collecting canned goods for the local food bank at North Fulton Community Charities, and would they like to participate? And then either they do or they don't. I ask them to leave their donation on the stoop and to text me to let me know when I can come and pick it up.
Although I'm sure some are like, hang on 1 second, and they go to the pantry right then.
Yes. Right? Yes. And I have a little notebook with me, so I'm always making notes because I'm making notes of whether they have a pet, what their pet's name is, because we're having a conversation. It's not really, I mean, it's a script in a sense that I'm hitting certain points, but it's more conversational, and I'm learning about my neighbors. Like I'll write down the name of their dog, and or if they have little kids or whatever it might be that's personal to that person, that home. Because I always send a handwritten note afterwards, and I always make sure that I make, I mention whatever that specific thing to them is.
Well, I
Like
love
if
that.
it's
I was
their
about to,
dog, I mention, it was really great meeting you and Fluffy, or whatever it be.
it's perfect. So
Something
I
like
was
that.
going to say that is, are you scribbling down, hey, I met Joe from Joe and Sarah who live at 123 Hill Street, right?
Yes,
And then when you get home, you may have knocked 60 doors, but you maybe met 14 people, but the 14 people, you know who they were, something specific about them, and all 14 of them are getting a handwritten note just thanking them for contributing, right?
exactly. That's exactly what I do. And then I put it in commands. I put it in as my Red Day donor, and I make a note of whatever information I have about them, whether they donated or they didn't donate, if they have a pet, whatever it might be.
Beautiful.
And so, yeah, I do that, like I said, twice a year. And so that helps me to get to know my neighbors. And it's not salesy. It's like I'm coming from contribution because I'm spending my day doing something for North Fulton Community Charities, and they're helping me. So.
Oh, for sure. You're this is not a selfish act at all. This is the exact opposite of that. But the first thing that's popping in my mind is, why are you only doing it twice a year?
Yeah, it's
Right.
true.
I mean, if it's working, if you're meeting, double-digit people every time you do it and adding those people to your database, who's to say you can't do something for the foster care foundation or the homeless shelter or whoever? It makes no difference, right?
Right.
And then
Right.
that can ultimately become part of your brand, if you will, right? Here are the couple of the charities that our organization supports. And you mentioned that when you are going on a listing appointment, let's say, and agent one comes in and they talk about how much they love the community, and they talk about the organizations that their team supports, and they talk about the listener, right? So tell me what's going to be most important to you about this process, right? What do you need to happen in order for you to consider a 10+ experience, right? And that's one vibe. And the other vibe is, hey, I'm real good at real estate, and I've won this award and this award and this award and this award, sign here. And they're like, well, do you donate to charity? Right? And they're like, well, we're going to go hire Donna.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So people like that kind of feel good story. I'm not saying do it for that reason. I would assume that all of you guys are, get fulfillment from impacting the community, or you probably wouldn't be in this business. So let's just have that kind of presupposition, right? So we all know that none of us would do this just to get clients, right? But we get an opportunity to make a huge amount of impact. But there's nothing wrong with sharing the people that we impact. All right, so you said something interesting about the golden letter. So tell me a little bit about how, rather than mailing the golden letter, you're essentially ready for it to drop it on their front stoop or whatever if they don't answer, which I think is a great idea. By the way, it's illegal to put something in the mailbox without appropriate postage, right?
Absolutely. We stick it on the door.
Okay, so
And before we get started, I'd like to just say it's not.
before we get started.
And before we get started with golden letter, sorry about that. I think you can add that the charities that you support to your listing presentation as the very last thing,
Yeah.
because I think it shows that you're intentional about giving back to the community. And you can say something like, Donna Patrick gives 10% of every closing to the following charities, or whatever that particular thing is. Or you could just say Donna Patrick supports the following charities.
Right.
But I think it's an important part of the listing presentation because it shows who you are in a way that's bragging.
And there is a section in the listing presentation that I use that's in command design that has that. So I have included my my volunteering for North Fulton, not North Fulton, I'm sorry, Habitat for Humanity, my donations and volunteering for Habitat in my listing presentation, because I have sort of a partnership with them too. They have some families that are overqualified, and I have them send those families to me so that I can help them hopefully buy a home through, traditional means, through, getting a mortgage through a lender
So that
instead of through
relationship
Habitat.
that relationship came about because of your network, but it also came about because you were intentional about asking for it. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
Yes.
We don't
So that was,
get anything. We earn it. She earned that because she asked the right questions.
Hmm?
Right.
And you
Yes.
might explore HUD homes as well for those people.
So my point is, there's something in command, in the listing presentation in command in designs, where it gives you that opportunity to include your community service.
Right.
To
And
your
by the way,
point, Candace.
I could argue it should be one of the very first things you say when you get in front of the person. Right. Because if that's impactful for them, then they will, how much they appreciate you and their interest in doing business with you will start from the very beginning of the time that you have together. It's kind of like saying, hey, I want to let you know the mission of our business is this. These are the organizations we pursue or we support, and here's why. Right. And
Mhm.
by the way, what would need to happen in this transaction in order for you to feel like it was a 5+ experience, right? 5-star experience. So you get it out there ahead of time. You're starting with why. Remember that idea? That's the whole idea. You start with why you do what you do. All right, beautiful. Thank you for. I apparently I was not perfectly clear, but I do think absolutely this type of information deserves a slot in your listing presentation and your buyer presentation for that matter. Okay. Okay. So Donna, you get to the door, you've knocked the door, and they are home. Walk us through what does that sound like? Drew, feel free to
We
chime in.
back up just 1 second, because I think it's important to nail down the time that you should go knock on the doors, because
Thank you.
we've done different times. So we went during the day, like evening, early in the morning, and we found that around 5 or 6 o'clock is going to be your best time to go and knock on the door, because typically we work open house on Saturday and open house on Sunday. So it doesn't leave us a lot of time to door knock. Door knocking takes a good bit of time depending on how many houses you're doing. So we ended up making it Thursday and Friday would be our door knocking days for our open houses that you have on Saturday and the one you have on Sunday. So you're hitting 2 different neighborhoods, and you're going to want to go around 5 or 6 o'clock, because that's when most people were home at that time. People aren't home. They're working in the morning, so they're not going to be there. They're working during lunchtime. So yeah, 5 or 6 o'clock is going to be your best time to go.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And we've also done Saturday mornings. Sometimes when we have a lot going on, we've done Saturday mornings too, just because that was the only time slot available to door knock and drop off golden letters. So as far as the golden letters, for us, both times it sort of focused on buyers. The first one was here in Roswell. I had a family that was looking for a home. They put in an offer on a home in a neighborhood that they really loved near Roswell Area Park, and they missed out on that, getting their offer accepted. They were like the next best offer. So they were super disappointed. So Drew and I decided to walk the neighborhood to see if we could uncover an off-market listing for that family. So I think that was probably it may have been a weekday, I'm not sure, but we knocked a lot of doors. We knocked the whole neighborhood, and we had a letter prepared to drop off in case they didn't answer. And we had a picture of the family in the letter. Because again, this wasn't like we weren't trying to persuade anyone to accept an offer. We were just letting them know we're out looking for a home for a family that had missed out on the other home that was for sale in the neighborhood. And Drew, you want to talk about the response that we got?
Yeah, so I remember, I think that was the first time that I ever did the golden letters. And I remember getting a call immediately while I'm still in the neighborhood. And this lady, she called me and she's like, I don't want to sell my home. I don't know why you're coming to me trying to get me to sell my home. I'm like, ma'am, I'm not trying to get you to sell your home. We're just looking, we're out here looking for the family. If you read the letter, all it says is we're looking, this family really loves this neighborhood. And, you know, you don't have to sell your home. Like, it's not, I'm not going to, you know, put a gun to your head and make you sell the house. So, but I was still in the neighborhood when I got that call. I received 2 or 3 other calls. I mean, this was a while ago, so it's kind of hard for me to remember. One of the ladies was really, she was just like really excited about what we were doing for the family. She said, y'all are amazing. Y'all are great realtors. Like, my realtor didn't do anything like this for me. It seems like you care about this family, and, you know, I could really just applaud you for doing that. She said she would keep
Hey,
her.
your realtor didn't do that? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You identify, they recognize something that they've observed, and you make it, you like amplify it a tiny bit, right? They say, well, my realtor didn't do that. Are you serious?
Yeah, I'll use that next time. Thanks, Bill. So I put her in command because she had just moved into the neighborhood. So, you know, I still keep her there because she was so impressed with what we were doing. You know, maybe she knows somebody, you know, a family member or a friend.
Oh, that is definitely a database ad.
Yeah.
That is absolutely a handwritten note. That's probably a surprise and delight too. I mean,
Yeah.
that is a rate that person is telling you they have the potential to be in your inner circle. Like, this is somebody who appreciates what you do. Let's put them on a pedestal.
Definitely. And then we got another call from a lady who was speaking about her neighbors getting really, you know, up there in age. So she said it would be good just to go see, you know, go talk to them and see what their plans are, because I guess they're really old. Maybe they'll be moving off to a home or something like that.
That's a little sensitive. You don't want to be like, hey, here you're old. You're probably going to want to leave soon. Here's my information in case you want to sell. Build a relationship the exact same way.
Yeah.
Knowing that, you know, they may have a need or a question sooner, but you got to be a little, you got to be, I'm not saying you weren't, but
I didn't bring up the age or anything. I think I just ended up writing a handwritten note and then delivering it straight to their door as well.
There you go. Perfect.
So, wasn't get out of here, oldies. No.
Right. You look like you're about to die. Can I speak to your kids so I can give your card, my card, please? Yeah, we got to be careful.
And I'll just say about that they probably have a lot of fears around moving because it's an unknown. It's the last house. Typically, they go to the last house they're going to. So there's a lot of nurturing that needs to happen around that. And if they do decide to sell, just be aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
in a lot of situations, as you guys would probably imagine, this is the most valuable asset that they have, and the equity that they pull from this sale will have a giant impact on their quality of life beyond them living there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so give me some scripts. Let's pretend like I am at the door. We'll start with you, Drew. Tell me what is your favorite script, and what are some of the typical responses to it? Kind of walk us through the script. Give it just like we're doing a live role play.
Okay.
And then I'll play along, and then afterwards you can tell me if I should have responded a different way, or if you tend to hear different responses.
Okay. So I'll do it for the open house door knocking. So I'll do knock, knock, knock.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Drew. I'm a local realtor. I'm actually hosting an open house for your neighbor, whatever their name is, so it seems more personal.
Of course.
We're hosting an open house this weekend, 2 to 4, they asked us to go around and invite out all their neighbors, just in case you may know friend or family. I know neighbors like to choose their neighbors. So this would be a perfect opportunity if you did know somebody. And then they'll either say, no, not really. You're gonna get
But
that
you would
response.
say, if you know somebody, you're the door knocker. I'll take care of the rest.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right. Yeah. If you happen to know anybody, can you think of anybody maybe from church or work or family members who's thinking about making a move anytime soon that may be interested?
You know, maybe my friend like Joe. I have to give him a call. I think he mentioned something about wanting to move into a different school district.
Oh,
Yeah, I might have one friend.
oh, cool. Well, I mean, would you like me to reach out to him? I can bridge that gap and make it easier in terms of, tell him the information about the home, the listing price, and just, get him more familiar with the area.
Well, I don't think he's going to be interested in this particular home. I think he wants to move like to the beach or something like that.
The beach. Okay. All right. Well, I don't have a script for that one, but
All right, let me help you with both. So first of all, I would not say they asked me, and I assume you're open to coaching, right?
absolutely.
Okay. I would not say they asked me to go knock the doors.
Hmm.
I would say working with my, I'm committed to making sure that as representing the Smiths, that we get, the best terms for the, for them and for the community,
Absolutely.
highest price, et cetera. So I made a commitment to come out and tell the neighbors about this event.
Okay.
They may have asked. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't ask, but you agreed. So therefore you made the commitment. People like people that make commitments.
Yep.
Well, let me rephrase that. People like people who make commitments and then do it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one slight tweak I would make to that phrase. If somebody were like, I would make sure that you give everyone a chance to respond to the questions you ask, right?
Absolutely.
So would you like to come? Are you available to stop by the open house? Right.
And
We'd love to see, we've got some milk and cookies there or whatever. So make sure you're asking that question.
Absolutely.
And
And it's hard for me to do a script because I really don't like scripting it. It's more of a conversation for me. And it's so much more natural when I'm not thinking about something ahead of time. My main focus is to see if I know it's cliche, but to see if there is a real estate need somewhere in there and figure out, how I can be of service in that way. So it
I don't
really,
think that's cliche at all. I think that's your job.
yeah. So I don't really go with the mind that I'm thinking of, something to say already, because that makes me feel, I don't
Yeah,
know.
but you're basically opening the same way, right?
Yeah.
Y-
Yeah, absolutely. I'm
And then
explaining.
when they say something, you're responding, and like if they were to say, "Well, I'm not interested, and I don't happen to know anyone that's interested."
Got you. Well, the only script that I really go in with is to try to get their information is I will tell them how much the list price of the home is, and usually people's ears perk up, especially in this market.
Mhm.
What the house is listed for, and if they're like, "Oh, really?" or if they have some kind of response where they're like surprised, I'll say, "Well, hey, if you care to see what it closes at, because we won't know what the final closing number is, I can always reach out to you and let you know what that final closing number is."
So I'm sorry, I feel like I'm being nitpicky here, but I think there's just such a small tweak that you can use to that phrase that
Mhm.
will change everything,
Gotcha.
right? Which is, oh, I'd love to stop by when it closes and share those closing details with you. Would that be okay? They're much less likely to say no to that.
Yeah.
Right. What I would, so always assume that kind of regardless almost of what they say yes or no to, you're going to share what's in the benefit of you sharing. Because maybe they know it's in their benefit, maybe they don't, but because you are working with people in the community, it's in their benefit to hear it. So you're just going to share it. Right.
I think we're trying to get that email address, and phone number too. So
Great. So how do you barter for that?
I pull out my notebook. My mom taught me this. I said, "What's your email?" And I look down, and I don't look up until I start hearing them rattling off an email address.
I love that. That's great, Donna.
She
Very
actually
smart.
did that,
works.
Bill. She actually did it because she said she was gonna do it, and we were in showing a house to some neighbors were walking by, and they wanted to see the house. And my mom was talking, and it was hilarious because they were like talking to each other, and my mom was like, "What's your email?" And I guess she didn't hear them, so my mom was just standing there like this, and I'm looking at her like.
That's right. And
I held the pose.
that's right. That's what we do. We know that the second we have their email, we will have one additional way to tell them information they need to
Absolutely.
make good real estate choices. So oftentimes we have to barter for that, right? I will send you blank if you give me the email.
Mhm.
Or what is your email so I can send you or give you or whatever blank. So what are the things that you guys are prepared to share in exchange for that information?
So
Yeah, so
go ahead, Mom. You got it.
I was gonna say, we always come from contribution because we know most people have an idea of what's going on in the market and that it's been a hot seller's market. So they're curious about the activity in the neighborhood. So we always offer to keep them informed about what's going on in the neighborhood, letting them know when something else is listed or when something else goes under contract or closes. For example, I have a contact in a neighborhood close by. We door knocked for an open house. She was thinking about selling her home and she decided to hold off because her home isn't updated. So she wanted to update it first. And I continue to stay in contact with her. And there's another home that just listed in the neighborhood. And because I know she is curious about what these other homes look like on the inside, I just invited her to go and preview the home with me. I told her I needed to go over there to look at it, to preview it for another client. Would she like to come and join me? And she does want to join me. That's something she'll respond to because people don't always respond. And sometimes we feel like they're kind of ghosting us, I guess, but they may have a bunch of other stuff going on. So I still continue to stay in contact and I try to find something that I know might interest them to get that dialogue going again.
Right. So that's another piece of evidence of why it should be phrased the way I suggested phrasing it. So, for example, if you say, would you like me to share with you, sales data as it happens in this neighborhood? They think, oh my gosh, this woman is going to, clobber my email. No. So the answer to that is no, I'm not giving you my email. I don't want to be clobbered. Right. But if you say, hey, I'm in this area quite a bit. Next time I'm here, I can bring you some printouts of some of the most recent sales, and you can let me know if you have any questions. And then therefore, you've told them what you're going to do. And then when you do it, it's not much of a, it's almost expected at that point. So you're assuming that, hey, I've got valuable information and I'm willing to share it with you. So don't be surprised when I do share it with you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then that can open up the dialogue for later too. So you go and you drop it off on their doorstep in 3 weeks, then you call them the next day and say, hey, it's Donna Patrick, your local agent, and I just dropped off some sales data at your door. I know you said you had some interest in that. Did you get a chance to review it? Do you have any questions? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yep.
So what are some of the other ways that you have gotten information from, like filling the email or whatever data you were missing? What did you, can you give us another line or two or a script or two that you've used in order to get, by the way, before we go there, you guys, when you respond to the same objections the same way and or same, comments the same way and you open the same way, those are scripts. Mm-hmm. So don't have an aversion to the word script. A script is like, it's the same, you are saying scripts, right? So you can you're going to naturally respond in a similar way to similar, comments at you. And so just get okay with calling it a script. That's what it is. You're going to respond the same way. So you may as well study it and internalize it and practice it and make sure that it's written by people that study the brain rather than just winging it. Because if you wing it, that's your script that you're winging that's not highly researched or anything, right? Mm-hmm. So just that's what we do, guys. We're salespeople. We say the same thing over and over again. You got to just get comfortable with it.
And I just want to just mention that there are lots of YouTube videos for different types of things. So I watch a lot of videos too on YouTube of other agents who are out, for example, door knocking or open house scripts. So there are resources out there for scripts, not only, you know, written scripts, but also videos on YouTube. And I
Love it.
often look at those. And I want to mention one other thing before we go on to the script for the welcome letters.
Yeah.
When we invite people to our open houses, Drew came up with a really nice invitation. It's very simple and it's not salesy. And we can get four to a letter size card. So
Okay.
it's real economical too, that we print at Office Depot, but it looks like an invitation.
Yeah.
And people respond to that. We've had several neighbors come in, and when we ask them, you know, how did they find out about the open house? They will say, you know, oh, we received an invitation. So it's really welcoming. It's not like a flyer with all the listing information and all that on it. It's just an invitation to the open house. And
I
then they
love
come to
that.
the open
I
house to
love
get
that.
the information.
That's right. Because look, if they want the information, I mean, they could drive by and not come into the open house or Google it or whatever, right? So it's not like we have some secret information. So if we're going to try to make contact, we may as well do it in a touching way. Right.
Mhm.
Great point there, Donna.
Yeah.
So what,
It's just like an invitation to anything else, like a shower or a party. It's an invitation.
what are you prepared to give things like or offer like neighborhood nurture or email newsletter or what other things have you used to kind of I hate to use
So
the
let me
word,
just
to
say
get
this
their
one thing. I want to say over 50% of people just will be like, no, no, no. They're just like no's. And it's like my one, I guess, script for that would be if it's one of those people that are just like no to everything, I'll still try to get the information at the end. I'll just, you know, give one last go at it. I'll say, well, would you mind if I keep you updated with your neighborhood stats and how your neighborhood is evolving over, you know, time? And if they say no to that, then I just keep it moving. But, you know, that's just my last ditch effort to try to get, you know, that email address or that phone number.
beautiful. Okay. And so if you come to my door and I say, hey, and you're like, it's Drew, and you're like, you know, you want to sell your home or you want to come to this open house? No, I don't go to open houses. And then you're like, well, so how would that go? Hey, I don't want to go to your open house.
Well, I don't want to go to your open house. I haven't really received
Say,
that
I'm
one.
sorry, no, thank you. We've got a birthday party. I won't be able to come to the open house.
I don't know. I don't have a script for that one because I've never
For
received
me,
no. Everybody always says, oh, well, thank you. Yeah, well, maybe we'll stop by. So I've never received the no, I don't want to go to the open house. I don't know. Ma, have you?
Gosh, that
yeah.
must mean I
So
am like in the top 1% of straightforwardness.
no, for me, again, I think people are curious about what's going on in their neighborhood. So if they can't make it to the open house, if they don't know of anyone who might be interested in moving to the neighborhood, I always offer to keep them updated on what's going on in the neighborhood. And that's, I guess, a neighborhood nurture type thing. But I put them on most people are responsive to that because they may balk at it at first, like, oh, I don't want to be inundated with a bunch of emails. And I reassure them, you know, I'm not going to, you know, spam you. I'm not going to send you multiple emails. I'll just let you know when something's going on in the neighborhood. If you'd like that once a month or whatever works for you, I'm happy to do that for you. And I can set you up on an automatic email where, you know, when something comes on the market in your neighborhood or goes under contract or sells, you know, you can receive that email automatically. And, you know, I can set it to once a month if that's all you want, or whatever works for you. And most people are really interested and open to that. You
Right.
know,
You give
I
them the
think if I
choice
make
of,
them,
you give them the choice. Would you prefer to have that once every 2 weeks or once every month? It's
yes,
like saying, are you available Thursday at 2 or 3 o'clock? I didn't
yeah,
say pick one of the following. Don't ever call me again. Meet me at 2 or meet me at 3. Right. I gave you the 2 I wanted.
right. And I think because I'm not pushy and it's more of a conversation. You know, it's hard to explain. You just make people feel comfortable. You're having a natural conversation
I
with
do
them.
want to say, I want to
And
say this. Let me say this, Ma. I feel like it seems so daunting, the task of door knocking, because I think people are overthinking the whole concept of it. You're literally knocking on the door and you're having a conversation. If the person wants to talk with you, then the conversation flows naturally. And it's like, it's so much easier. It's not scary. It's not a bad thing. If the person doesn't want to talk to you, the person doesn't want to talk to you. I mean, you can try to get that information out of them, but it's like, it's in the numbers. How many doors are you going to knock on today? You'll talk to a couple of people that want to talk, or they have information, or they have a need. You'll have a person, like I had a dude when I tried to open up his storm door to slide the letter in. He like whipped the door open. He said, "Don't touch my door," and I like backed up. I was like, "Oh my god!" I rang the doorbell like 15 minutes ago. I'm so sorry, and walk away. That's my one scary moment. But it's, don't overthink it. Just get out there and knock on the door and just have they're human beings on the other side of the door. Some of them are not going to want to talk to you today, but they might want to talk to you tomorrow or the next day. So don't take it personal. Somebody said, I can't remember who said it, don't aim for how many emails you can get, aim for how many no's you can get, or something like that. I can't remember.
Are
Yeah,
you guys
I love that.
equipped with like name tags and everything when you're doing your door knocking? I'm just
yes,
Sure.
okay.
yes, I usually wear a Keller Williams shirt and I
Okay.
have my name tag on, and Drew has his name tag on.
Gotcha.
The other thing I want to say is, I remember in the beginning I mentioned I bring a little notebook and I make notes. So even those conversations, I make note and I have the person's address. I send a handwritten note just thanking them for taking the time to talk to me. Who knows? Maybe they'll reach out at some point in the future. Even if it's a no, it's still a conversation for me. It was an interaction that I can follow up on again in the future.
Well, okay, so you corrected yourself, because it's not, I'm going to see if they happen to reach out to me in the future. It's, you're in my database and you are not going to forget me starting this moment.
Yeah.
Exactly. But they also have a way to reach me in between my, contact with them. So
course,
I
but we're
make
never
sure
gonna
I
leave-
follow up with that handwritten note.
Of course, you're never going to leave it to them though,
Right.
because they will not touch you 36 times a year. That's
And
our job.
Drew is really good about putting people in his command. I haven't gotten there yet with setting people up on smart plans. I put mine in command, but I haven't set up smart plans.
You note on that, you literally, like, after the open house, that's literally after I come home after my open house, I call everybody that was unrepresented and I thank them for coming by. And whatever that conversation turns into, it turns into. But right after that, because if you procrastinate with putting people in your database, usually won't happen. So I just make it like a mental thing to do it, even though I don't feel like, I've been at an open house all day, 4 hours straight. I get home and I have to call people. I'm like tired at that point, but it's like, just do it now, because if you don't do it now, you're not going to do it. So
I love everything you just said, Drew. I agree with 100% of every word you said. I think that if you procrastinate and don't get around to calling them until Thursday or something, they went to more than your open house, that you're going to get outworked by one of the other people that hosted one of the other open houses. Just do it. And you know why you do it, Drew?
because I know that if I don't do it, I won't be successful, or I don't know.
Well, yeah, but that has become your standard, right?
By the way,
So that is
way,
your standard. You do not let that day, the sun go down on that project.
Yeah.
Right. That gets done. That is the standard of your business. The more
it's like a part of the open house for me. That's
I love that. Oh man.
It's a part of the open house. So it's like, if you're gonna do the open house, do the open house. Don't just, excuse my language, don't half-ass it, because you're not gonna be successful if you do.
Man,
I-
Drew,
hey,
you're on fire right now.
that's what's called a high performance habit.
Yeah.
And habits determine our success.
Yep.
So-
FM Alexander says, we do not determine our futures. We determine our habits, and our habits determine our futures.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What did I not ask you that I should have asked you about door knocking?
So I think I just want to mention that your script, the three asks, those are kind of the things that I work into conversations.
Ooh, tell
So
us
like,
more.
for example, have you or your family thought about making a move recently? So that's kind of something we work into the conversation when we're either, door knocking for a just listed or an open house or whatever it might be. Again, do you happen to know any neighbors or someone from church or work that we could be helping with their real estate needs? We work that in. It may not be those exact words, but for the most part it is.
Okay.
And when you think of real estate, who do you trust? Are they working with, do they have an agent that they rely on for real estate related information? How can we earn that opportunity to be that person? And would it be okay if we stay in touch periodically to let them know what's going on in their neighborhood and in the market? And we're here if they need anything. For example, some people might not want to make a move. I have from one open house, I have 3 neighbors. Drew did the door knocking to invite people to the open house. And I had 3 neighbors come, and I've stayed in contact with those 3 neighbors since earlier this year. One finally decided to list, and she chose me, and she said she had someone else she was thinking of, but she chose me to list her home. The other 2, I continue to nurture. One of them needed refinancing information, so I connected him with that. You can offer them refinancing information, the mobile app. I'm not that thrilled with the mobile app, so I do offer that, but it's not one of my favorite things. The neighborhood nurture, vendors. So those are all things where you can come from contribution. And if they're happy where they are, they don't think they have any real estate needs, you can also bring up investing. And then there are people who are interested in getting involved in real estate. So you have recruits. And there have been times when we have done door knocking where we've actually identified potential recruits that I've connected with Robin. So there are multiple opportunities through door knocking, and the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
And like Drew said, that you count the no's because eventually you're going to get to the yes. It's just that's the odds.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually you're going to get to your yeses.
And I think when you aim for the nose and you like go for the nose, those objections that you hear, like you're saying, Bill, you get more comfortable with dealing with them. The more that you hear that no, 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 and you start to be able to, shuck and jive around those and try to.
It's like
your favor.
You kind of like mentally decide what is kind of typical. So for example, if you go in there thinking you're going to like take a listing, when you get a no, it's like devastating. Right.
So on that
go in
note,
there thinking, hey, I'm going to get a bunch of no's today. And then somebody has a great conversation with you. You leave and say, oh my gosh, today was so much fun.
and
Right.
So we were door knocking the week before last, right? And Drew got a listing appointment out of that. We're door knocking to find a home for his buyer who had just closed the week before, and then he got a listing appointment.
Mm-hmm. And he wants to buy, and so he wants to sell and buy.
You know what I was thinking? You know how the third question in the third ask script says, when it comes to real estate, who is it that you trust? A nice tweak that you could have used. Again, I'm never assuming that whenever I give somebody advice that they haven't thought about this. That's the permanent disclosure. Okay. What if you were to say, hey, do you have a real estate agent that shares market data with you on a regular basis? Right. So if they say, oh, well, I don't know of anyone that's I'm not on anyone's newsletter. No one calls me and tells me what's going on in the neighborhood. No one calls me and invites me to open houses. So when it comes to real estate, you don't have anybody that shares local market data with you. Right.
Mm.
As if you like can't believe that could be true.
Mm.
And then they say no. And you say, hey, I'd like to earn that opportunity. Right. So it's just a slight variation on the who is it that you trust. It's do you have an agent that does the following task for you, right? Have you received a vendor list from your real estate agent, right? Oh, I thought I could just call realtors when I wanted to buy or sell something. No, you call realtors for anything. You want to know where the gift shop is, gift store is? I'll tell you that. You can call me for anything. You want to know who the best, alterations company in town is? Got nothing to do with real estate. You just call me. I'll figure it out for you. That's what I do. I'm a very well paid concierge. See what I'm saying?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Last thoughts, Drew. What does somebody who is kind of mulling over, is door knocking for me? Is this a way that I can have success? What advice do you have for them?
I would say just do it. Do it a couple times, because the first time sucks. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's like the reason why I did it so much is that I know that I know that I can talk to people, because that's just been me my whole life. I like to talk to people. I couldn't do the cold calling, but when I got around people, it was just it was easier for me. That's why I latched on to open houses. So just do it. Initially, I did it because it made me uncomfortable, and I know that if something's making me uncomfortable, there's a place there that I can really grow in terms of my myself, and it's basically I use the uncomfortable as like a ceiling for me, so that I can bust through that ceiling, and on the other side is going to be something better. So it's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be uncomfortable, because especially as a new real estate agent, a new realtor, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about when I first started door knocking, but I just did it and I got through it. And after the first 3 times that I did it, it started to become easier. My open houses started to become better. I started just my whole business just was becoming more and more natural. And it was good practice for me and just talking real estate. So it'll be good for you, not only just to get clientele, but also to help you evolve as a real estate agent.
I'm going to make a prediction. But within the next 12 months, Drew, you're going to be teaching classes on cold calling. I guarantee it. Okay. Because what'll happen is you go and you figure out what am I going to do in this business that begins to give me a win or two. And then you get a win or two and you want another win or two. Then you want another win or two. Then you have a certain amount of confidence. You're like, oh, you want me to call this guy who didn't sell his home before? Give me his number. Right? It's like sometimes we need one little path to help us build our confidence. Then we'll do it all.
Yeah.
Right. So if you don't want to start with cold calling, don't. And quite frankly, I don't care if you ever make a cold call. But if you're not getting the appointments that you need to hit your goals, then you got a problem. We need to talk about some strategy.
Yeah.
Right. But you are about to build a gigantic amount of confidence. You already have a bunch, but you're about to 10x that. And when you do, there ain't a single activity in real estate that you will be afraid of doing.
Yeah.
All right, Donna, closing message. What do you have for people that are toying with this idea?
So again, I think people work with people they like and people that they can relate to. And for me, it was hard to kind of build those relationships over the phone through cold calling. So door knocking for me, I mean, if you're not comfortable with cold calling, try door knocking. It gives you a chance to just interact with people face to face, so you can take into consideration body language and expressions, and you can see their environment. You can't see anything on the phone. It gives you an opportunity to bring up things that make people feel good and comfortable. You talk about their dog that just runs out the door when they open the door, or if you see kids' toys in the yard, or whatever it might be.
The garden,
Just
Mama Nature.
garden, Mama Nature. She was a woman in a neighborhood where we were doing an open house that Drew had an interaction with when he was door knocking to invite people to the open house. And she had these huge, what were they?
Tiger lilies.
the tiger lilies in front of her home, and she gave Drew some seeds to bring home to me to plant. And Drew brought her back some garden gloves recently. So it just gives you a chance to develop those relationships more so. You know, some people are great on the phone. I'm just not great on the phone. So this
Yeah.
worked for me. And if you're
Same-
not
same
great
thing
on the
to you.
phone, try door knocking.
Dude.
All right,
And
Drew and Donna, I'm going to put you on the schedule for October the 18th, 2020. You'll be teaching class on cold calling, okay?
Okay. All right.
I got you.
Hey, I just want to thank you guys. I mean, today has been like nugget after nugget after nugget. This is, you guys are a perfect example of one of the major concepts that they talk about in Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which is we first start with our foundation, and then we can add some creativity to it, right? So you studied door knocking, you studied objection handlers, you studied some scripts, you studied the golden letter workshop and all of that, and you got a great base foundation of all that stuff. And then you went in there and said, hey, how can this be, what's the creative side of this? How can we mold it to be the best fit for ourselves and our tendencies and our personalities? And how can we make the biggest impact on our local community? I am just so impressed with everything I heard today. You guys are blowing me away. Thank you.
And it's a work in progress. You know, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what? It's a work, right? You got to come in every day and pay attention and practice and try it and fail and try it again and fail and try it again and ask more questions and keep showing up.
And I do have script partners, and we do work on scripts. So where it may seem like we're not using scripts, we are. It's just we're incorporating them into conversations. But I do role play and script practice with my script partners.
Yeah, partners. I love how you said that too. Like here's the thing is sometimes we have this idea in our head that like if we call it scripts, then like we go from like a nice person that wants to contribute to society to like a salesman, right?
That's
Like
me.
get comfortable with it, man. You're a salesman. Salesmen help when you, it's like money. Money is a tool. If you do good things with money, money is good. If you do bad things with money, money is bad, right? If you are all the knowledge that you have in real estate, you can either do bad with it or you can do good with it. And we all know that you're going to do good with it. So you're not going to ever be able to, no matter how good you get, Drew, you are not going to be able to convince somebody to sell a house they don't desire to sell. And you're not going to be able to convince somebody to buy a home they don't want to buy. It's just not going to happen. So understand that all of our salesman stuff, all of our scripts, all of our neuro-linguistic programming, all of our like things that we've internalized, all the third-party tools that we use, it's designed to help our person get where they want to go, not to manipulate them and to do something that causes you to get some extra benefit, right? So if somebody were to say, hey, Drew, I never expected you to become a salesman, don't say, well, I'm not a salesman. So yeah, want to buy a house?
Can I make one more comment about scripts?
Please.
Scripts help you to become familiar with the information, right? To kind of internalize the information so that when you're in that conversation, it's natural. Like you can focus on what the person is saying because you're not thinking about, oh, what am I going to say if they say this? What am I going to say if they say that? You have that internalized already, and it just comes out naturally when you hear something. You're able to focus on the person you're talking to rather than focusing on, oh my gosh, what am I going to say if they say this? What am I going to say if they say that? So that's, my thing.
I'm just beaming with pride right now. I'm so glad I get a chance to watch this story unfold. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Just Donna and Drew, again, thank you. And I would also ask, do you recommend the first couple of times you go door knocking to partner with somebody?
Absolutely. It makes it easier to look over. Like the first time I did it with my mom, I looked over my shoulder right before I went to the door and I was like, she's doing it. So I got to do it too. And then I knocked on the door. It just gives you, when somebody else is out there with you, you're not suffering in silence.
And it's a safety thing too.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have someone with you for safety reasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I agree with exactly both of those comments. And it could, you guys can sort the leads anyway, hey, I'll knock this door. If they answer it, this will be my opportunity. You knock the next one. If they answer, like, you're the one in charge of the follow-up for that. Like, you can just, you guys can alternate so everyone gets a chance to have some cool opportunity. Thank you so much. This worked exactly like I was hoping it would, where we share some stories, we give you guys some opportunity to share some of the things that you've been doing and the successes that you've been earning. And meanwhile, you share some of the dialogues and scripts that you guys are using to move the market. So congratulations. Don't forget, Wednesday and Thursday this week from 1 to 5 will be the live stream of Gene Rivers' business planning session. Literally, this is probably the best event of the year. Do not miss this. And if you are in Bold, if you've registered for the full Bold, please send me a message so I can get you onto a private Bold WhatsApp group for PC. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.